Of course, here is your video script, lightly paraphrased. I have carefully preserved your original style, articulation, tone, and full length, only adjusting word order and phrasing slightly where it felt natural. There are some memories we carry, times when wearing something and then taking it off just doesn't feel right under certain conditions. And when we speak about paying attention to the degree of cautiousness, it's not simply about the act of removal. Starting off, you may think to yourself, if I change the way I respond, or if I try something differently, maybe the result will shift. The truth is, in most cases, the process of taking something off, whether it's a piece of clothing, a responsibility, or a mindset, comes with its own kind of tension. You might be told perhaps that the solution is simple, or maybe you're looking for an answer given the situation, or perhaps you're just checking to see how this or that path might end. But the reality of these things, how we go about removing and then wearing again, is more layered. To not fall into the trap of repeated frustration, we have to talk about the habits that are often hidden from view. There is a pattern here. So, saying that, the first thing to understand is that controlling the impulse, the repeated reactions, and the way we take things on again, all of it, requires strength. It requires a kind of internal energy, a certain feeling of hope, even when we go through the cycle of wearing and shedding. Why is it that we feel the need to put something back on, even when we know it doesn't fit the same way? You ask yourself, why am I continuing to do this? And then you try to push through, you try to find a way forward, but it doesn't just happen by itself. The more you go back to that same action time and again, whether out of habit or because you think you've figured it out, or maybe you've just grown attached to the feeling, still at the core of it, this back and forth of wearing and removing, this repetition is not something to ignore. It has its own weight. I once said, let me try to understand the process of undressing from this pattern. But the spirit of wearing again, the road that goes back and forth, this very thing happening before us, this moment, because of that, in some way, you are left with a large number of things, a certain busyness of actions, as if they are naturally more attractive than they should be. The goal here is not to erase, but to fully see when you are putting something on again. Maybe with time, or perhaps as early as last year, we talked about sacrifice and meaning. Or maybe now, with this new context, the answer lies not in a simple yes or no, but in understanding the reason behind the cycle itself. The feeling of emptiness when something is off and the attempt to fill it by putting it back on. You hear someone say, because of the way you did it, the sequence, the repeated layering, the exact timing of it, if you examine the method of how it was worn, you might see that the energy of acceptance, the way it settles into place, has its own practical rhythm. The first change, the moment of taking it off again, the reason for then putting it back, all of these steps, these layers, are part of a lived process. It's not static. So when you ask, why do I keep returning to the same motion? Remember that it isn't just weakness. There is a kind of strength in recognizing the cycle. Over time, the process of wearing and unwearing, the quiet ceremony of it, becomes a pattern that carries its own kind of logic. At every stage, you could try to skip ahead, but the honest truth is that you will come back to the same question. What is it that makes me want to put this on again? And in answering that, you are already halfway through the door. The project of learning how to remove, truly remove, is not about forgetting. It's about seeing the structure of when and why you wear something in the first place. Because once you see that clearly, the act of taking it off no longer feels like a loss. It becomes instead a quiet choice, a minute of stillness, a breath, and then, slowly, you begin to understand the difference between holding on and letting go. That is not a weakness. That is a form of grace. So take your time. Look at the situation, the context, the small details of how you came to put it on again. And then ask yourself with kindness, do I still need to wear this? Or am I ready to simply rest for now without it? Let me end here. Thank you.